wanted to discuss meditation from Friday. So as we were letting things fall away, allowing things to fall away, senses, thoughts, relationships, and standing as emptiness, then I heard you say, maybe you said it or maybe I just heard it, but I heard you say, allow the feelings to die in you. Allow the feelings to die in you. And that was a little different for me. So instead of things dissolving away, there was this opening of capacity to allow things to die into me. And I felt this expanded capacity, apparent expanded capacity of awareness to allow these feelings to come very close and die into me. And with that, I realized everything dies into me. And it was such a close and intimate experience. Intimate was the word that came. And this sense that there's no reason to fear death. No reason to fear death, because everything dies right into you.
But the you never dies.
Never. And it's never born.
Yes. Everything is born in you, but the you isn't born. Everything exists in you, but you don't exist.
Yeah.
And everything dies in you, but you don't die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just there as awareness as an infinite capacity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so that was like a visceral version of what we did this morning. And I noticed, I'm sure that many of you noticed too, in that meditation, and this is how the teaching evolves. We started off in that meditation, if I remember rightly, I said something like, remove your thoughts, remove your feelings. And then at a certain point, because these meditations, they just come spontaneously in the moment. They're appearing in the moment, and I'm doing them like all of you. And I'm always trying to use language, as you know, to get as close as possible to the reality of our experience. And some stage halfway through the meditation changed from remove your thoughts, remove your feelings. Many of you in the past have been here when we've done yoga meditations, when we've removed our eyes and our ears and our tongues and we've placed them on a piece of silk cloth next to us. But halfway through this meditation, it changed. At some point, instead of saying, remove your feelings, I said, let your feelings dissolve in you, which is closer. Because we can't really remove anything from ourselves. Because we are that in which all experience appears. There is no outside of you. It's not possible to take an object out of space. Where would you put that object, a physical object, out of physical space? Where would you put the object that you removed from space? So the meditation just spontaneously changed. It's not our experience that objects are removed from us. Although that is a legitimate formulation at a certain stage. It's closer to our experience to say, let the thought die or dissolve in you. Let the sound of the aeroplane dissolve in you. Let the sensation of the soles of your feet dissolve in you. Because that is actually our experience. Everything that vanishes not out of ourselves, but into ourselves.
Right, and that's what was so helpful for me, was before everything was dissolving, kind of away in a subtle way.
Yes, yes. And likewise, when any experience arises, it doesn't, our experiences are not lined up, waiting in the wings just outside awareness, ready to make their appearance on stage. There is no such place in our experience outside awareness. So it is our experience that the sound of our voices, the sensation of our feet on the floor, the sound of the aeroplane, the sight of this room, it arises in what we call I, in ourself. Not ourself, this limited body-mind, but ourself, this open, empty, luminous presence of awareness. That is our experience. And when any experience exists, take the sound of the plane now, anything that appears or exists must exist. There must be some medium present for the object to appear in. Like the sound of the plane, it is an object that appears, exists and vanishes. In what is it appearing? In what we call myself. What did it emerge out of? In what we call myself.
Right, and so for me the words I am that came, as that infinite capacity. I am that.
Yes. I am that is the... You remember that at some stage we looked at these three stages. I am that to which all experience appears, or with which all experience is known. I am that in which all experience appears. I am that of which all experience is a play or the activity. So the statement I am that is the culmination of the second step. But there is still a distinction between I and that, albeit we have stated our identity, but we're still referring to I and that. So in this third step, the I and the that collapse, and we can no longer conceptualize either the I or the that, which are either the same or not the same.
I think the way I felt it was I am that, which it was more of a this feeling, but yeah, it was just really seeing it and recognizing that it is me, it's all in me.
So when the I am the that can no longer be conceptualized as two things, we previously thought they were two things, now they're one thing. What can we call that one thing? It has no names.
You drop words, you drop the that, and then you can even drop
the I. You drop the I, but without the that, what is the need for the word I? So that is truly nameless, but as soon as we begin to speak of it, it is legitimate to give it a name. And depending on the time and the place in which this understanding arose, it was given a name that was consistent with the local cultural linguistic tradition. So in some traditions they call it the Buddha nature. In other traditions they call it the Christ consciousness. In other traditions they call it the self. In other traditions they call it the beloved. In other traditions they call it the heart. Other traditions they call it I or the self. All these words are inaccurate but legitimate and provisional names.
Like you said, how the jewel is wrapped.
They are the packaging, the different coloured tissue paper in which the colourless and nameless and priceless jewel is wrapped. And sometimes the wrapping paper is so colourful and so interesting and so exotic, and it sparkles and it's got gold dust all over it, and that we're given the present, the gift, we don't even open the package. We just become infatuated with the packaging. And then we take off the first layer of packaging, and then there's another layer of packaging under that. We become absorbed in that. We forget that the only purpose of the packaging is the nameless, priceless jewel. The packaging is to be discarded. It's supposed to be thrown away, including the packaging which this teaching is wrapped in, which doesn't have much tinsel on it, but nevertheless it is still local, cultural packaging. We are using the packaging of our culture, the everyday language of our culture. But it's still packaging.
I've appreciated this week how seems like you've talked more about emphasizing how this is not extraordinary. This experience, it's natural. It's an ordinary experience.
Yes. I feel that so many people in the world would be... So, yes, that is said in response to two situations. One, for those of us that, as many people here who have been on a spiritual, deeply involved in a spiritual path for many years, for many decades in some cases. So it is, I'm trying to draw attention to the essence of each of these traditions. I'm trying to speak about what is common to them, not what is different about them. Somebody once asked me, what is the connection between this teaching and Tibetan Buddhism? And I said, if you remove everything Tibetan and everything Buddhist from Tibetan Buddhism, you get this teaching. What is the connection between this teaching and Christian mysticism? If you remove everything that is mystical and everything that is Christian from Christian mysticism, you get this teaching. This I should say, this understanding.
And everything that is non-dual.
And if you remove everything that is Advaitic and Vedantic from the Advaita Vedantic tradition, you get this teaching. And if you remove all the packaging, the cultural packaging, the 21st century Western cultural packaging from this teaching, you get the nameless, priceless jewel that is the foundation of all religious and spiritual traditions, and is not only the foundation of peace in all individuals, it is the one knowledge upon which world peace could be based, because it is the only experience that all people, irrespective of their nationality, their race, their creed, their gender, their political persuasion, irrespective of all their conditioning, it's the one experience upon which everyone, without exception, can agree, and therefore it must be the basis, the starting point for world peace. So that leads on to the second reason that I have referred several times in this retreat, as you mentioned, to the this essential understanding that one, to connect those of us in this room from different traditions, but also to make it available to all the people who would be interested in it but are put off this understanding for fear of having to subscribe to some kind of religious or spiritual doctrine or person. The people that are basically all 7 billion of us are interested in peace and happiness above all else, and that's what this teaching is about. It's why I prefer the term peace and happiness to enlightenment. How many people in the world are interested in enlightenment? I mean, what fraction of a single percentage of people are interested in enlightenment? Hardly any. How many people in this world are interested in peace and happiness? Is there anyone, is there any single person of the 7 billion of us who are not interested in peace and happiness above all else? Not a single person. Peace and happiness is just another name for enlightenment. It is the common name for enlightenment. So I'm also, I also speak of this understanding in the way I do because I want to make it available to everyone, not just to show that it is the foundation of all the great religious and spiritual traditions, but it is actually the foundation of what everybody longs for above all else. And it doesn't require any special practice, it doesn't require any special qualifications, it doesn't require a certain level of intelligence, it doesn't require a certain political orientation or sexual orientation, it doesn't require subscribing to any belief at all. It doesn't require being devoted to a teacher or to a tradition. It doesn't require affiliating oneself with any particular teacher or any particular teaching. It is freely available to everyone. So that's why I try to speak of it in these ways, to show that it is not something beyond experience. We so often hear this phrase in the spiritual traditions, beyond the mind. There is nothing beyond the mind. Try now to leave the field of mind in which your experience appears. It's like trying to leave space. There's nothing beyond the mind. It is prior to mind. It is not something we have to go towards. It is something that everybody can find just by taking the thought, I am, and going to that, in their experience, to which that thought refers. It is not an enlightened self. It is the light of the self. And that light shines equally brightly in all people, at all times, under all circumstances, and in all situations.